Mook and a Mike, hosted by four-time Emmy-nominated producer Frank Pace, with retired New York City firefighter and Vietnam vet Billy O'Connor.
My brother.
How you doing today?
Couldn't be any better, brother. Imagine running into a guy like you in a nice place like this. Who could figure?
It's Saturday, October 17th, and welcome to a Mick, a Mook, and a Mike. This is probably our 9th or 10th episode. We're doing really well.
Well, I like the idea that last week we had a lot of fun with Tony O. I mean, I like the diversity of it all, you know. The fact that we're not pigeonholing ourselves with comics or just entertainment people, you know. I like the idea that we're doing sports, you know, and I'm getting to meet a lot of good people. I mean, I'm having a lot of fun here. This is great.
Yeah, well, we're going to meet another good one today, but a little more on her later. So we didn't really push our book last week.
No, and it's out. The only thing is that Amazon's not really complying. They've been on hold because of this COVID thing.
I don't think it's the COVID thing. I just think Jeff Bezos is, you know, something's wrong with that. But let's get.
I'm going to look at Bezos. I'm going to give him a call and tell him I don't like his business model, Bezos. I think I should, you know, give him a couple of pointers.
I think you can help. I think you can help for sure. But the book, if you go on Amazon, you can order it, even though it says you can't order it. So that's the bottom line. And if you want to get it faster, you can go on acclaimpress.com and they'll deliver it. You know, they'll walk it to your door.
And Amazon is getting them out.
Yeah, Amazon is ordering.
They're getting them out. It's
they're
just
taking
that
orders and they're getting them out. They just
backlogged.
It says temporarily out of stock, but they're not out of stock. So whatever.
They can't keep up with the demand, Frank. That's what it is.
They have ordered more.
People are clamoring.
They have
for this book.
They have ordered more. Clamoring.
They're clamoring out there. I can hear them, but you can hear the clamor if you listen closely.
Yeah.
You can hear the clamor.
So the results of our totally unofficial presidential election poll with no comments allowed, we got several hundred responses, and the responses are 65% Biden, 34% President Trump, and 1% undecided. So now you're going to comment on that 1% undecided?
I don't know where you got to live to be undecided at this point. It's Jakarta, I guess. People in Jakarta are undecided. I don't know. Jakarta, Indonesia?
I know Jakarta.
Do you?
Have you ever been there?
No, but I'm very familiar with their skyline. I mean, it's in all the magazines. The familiar skyline of Jakarta, Indonesia.
Yeah. So our guest today.
Have you ever been there?
No.
I'm just asking. You never know.
No.
You get around. You know. You never know.
I don't leave the country anymore. I don't leave California anymore.
Don't get around much anymore.
I don't leave California much anymore. You can't get on a plane. You can't do anything.
Yeah, I know.
I figure this is going to last at least another 6 months, don't you?
I think that's being optimistic. I mean, I don't know what the big deal is. Put on a mask. Why is that such a big deal? Why is that such a big sacrifice? I don't get it. I mean, it's not like I'm asking you to storm the beaches of Iwo Jima. You know, you're not asking to run into a burning building. Just wear a mask. What's the big deal?
Who knows?
I don't know what the problem is.
Now they're canceling football games in the South. Alabama's going to play Georgia
today. You see, Coach of Alabama.
Without Coach Saban. The spread...
That's right.
Dropped 2.5 points.
It went from 6 to 4. That's right.
That's funny. Wow.
I mean, it's Nick Saban, you know, but look, that don't mean nothing. Nope. You don't know nothing. I mean, you know, it's like if you're born at 6, you can sell it at 4 and maybe catch a middle.
Yep.
But that is what it is. I don't know what's going to happen with this COVID, but I miss my grandkids. I want to be able to get on a plane. I want to go to New York. I want to see people, you know. When you get our age, man, we don't know how many years we got left, you know. So, you know, I'm a little bitter about it, but fortunately it hasn't changed our life. We're getting a lot of work done. We're doing a lot of writing.
We are doing a lot of writing.
You know.
More to come.
That's right.
Stay tuned.
And don't forget, Lips is available now, but it's on Acclaim especially. It'll get right out. And if you order on Amazon, it's going to take maybe a week, 10 days. What do you think?
Probably a week to 10 days.
All right. So
time you order it.
But they're clamoring for our writing. They can't wait to get their hands on it.
Wow. Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought is right? All right.
Speaking of writing, our guest next week, jumping ahead since you brought it up, will be Mary McNamara, Pulitzer Prize-winning writer for the Los Angeles Times. And she's going to be an interesting guest for sure.
Oh, man, I can't wait for that. A Pulitzer Prize columnist for the New York Times. And Mary McNamara, yeah, I've read some of her stuff. She's remarkable. You know, the thing about journalism, which one of the reasons it's going to be great for me to interview a journalist, even though my degree is in journalism, never dreaming that I was going to do anything with it. I mean, I didn't go to school at 62 to become a cub reporter. That's for shit sure, you know, like I knew it wasn't going anywhere with it. But journalists, when they write a column, they get a certain amount of inches. Mm-hmm. You know, they give them like 7 inches, 8 inches.
And it's usually 750 to 1,000 words.
Yeah,
1,500 words.
But they got to come in. They can't waste a word. So it's almost like a poet, you know. And I love that kind of writing. As you know, when we bang stuff back and forth, we're always trying to.
But they write different stuff than us because they don't write to rewrite. They write to go to print.
Exactly. But they can't waste a word. There was a great story. Hemingway, of course, initially was a journalist. So was Mark Twain. Mm-hmm. Some of the great writers that we have in American literature were initially journalists because they don't waste words. There's a great story about Hemingway. And he was in a bar in Key West, right? Sloppy Joe's, supposedly. You know, that's the legend has it anyway. And he was hanging around with a bunch of journalists. And he made a bet. And he said that he could write a compelling story with a beginning, a middle, and an end with only 6 words.
Okay. I'll bite.
Yeah, of course, all the journalists at the table bid too. And he took a cocktail napkin. And he said, for sale, baby shoes, never worn. And he threw the cocktail napkin.
Wow.
Isn't that great?
Wow.
There was another story I had read about a writer who stayed at another writer's house. And he was leaving in the morning. Of course, the other writer wasn't up yet, and he wanted to thank him for the graciousness of staying in his house. And he wrote a long thank you note, you know, and he left him the note. And at the very bottom, he said, P.S. Sorry for the long note. I didn't have time to make it shorter. And that's so cool. I mean, and I know that she's going to have tales about having to make a deadline and how she has to, what they call kill your darlings. As a matter of fact, one of the columns I read by Mary McNamara, she talked about killing your darlings, which is what, of course, every writer hates to do. It's like, you know, hey, I wrote that, you know, like I wrote that. I don't want to kill that. You're going to edit that out, you know, but.
It'll be a fascinating interview.
Oh, it's going to be terrific. It's going to be a great interview. I can't wait to pick her brain. And like you said, I'll be learning. I won't be criticizing. She's Pulitzer Prize.
What? You can't criticize. There's nothing you can do to criticize.
Yeah, I'll throw a few tips out. It's like when I was talking to Johnny Bench about hitting. You know, I like to give him a few tips about what to do with the bat. You know,
exactly. All you know about hitting is you can't. All you know about pitching is you can't hit it. So Derek wants us to talk about current events. But I don't want to talk about current events. I don't want.
2020's been a nightmare.
I don't want to talk about the 2 guys on Thursday night.
I don't
want to talk about the Supreme Court. I just want it all to be over. I truthfully just want it all to be over. I'm so tired.
Well, you know what? In Europe, they got a great system, I think. I swear to God. They give people 6 months to make their case. They give them a certain amount of money, and that's it. You know, like, you get it from the government. Here's $300,000. You got 6 months. Make your case. Done. They start running as soon as they get in office here.
Yes, and it used to be, when we were growing up a million years ago, the presidential campaign started after Labor Day. So they had 2.5 to 3 months to make the case. But whenever they started getting PAC money involved, I don't know whether that was
Citizens United.
I don't know if it was Ronald Reagan or I don't know if it was Bill Clinton. I'm going to be nonpartisan here. That was the beginning of the end.
But you're talking about $1 billion. You're spending $1 billion to run for president. It's absurd. I mean, even a congressman now, it's a $10 million enterprise. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you raise millions and millions and millions of dollars for a job that pays $400,000.
Yeah, that's not odd.
That is odd.
Well, you know, it's been said when you start, and of course, the guy who spends the most money, 8 out of 10 times, he's the guy getting elected. So we don't really have elections. We have auctions.
Yep.
I mean, we're having auctions in this country. So regardless of what side of the fence you're on, well, God, both of these people spent $1 billion. You might as well go out and vote.
I just want it
to be over. I know we all.
I just want it.
We all have political fatigue.
As much as I want COVID to be over, even more, I want this freaking election to be over, because then it'll be the beginning of hell in two ways. Either the beginning of the hell for the transition, or it'll be the beginning of the hell for what Trump will do after he's not elected. So
can we come back together, Frank? You think this country could be united again? I mean, do we need somebody from Mars to come down and or some other planet and start attacking us to finally say, hey, we got a problem here. We got to take care of this together. What is it going to take?
I don't know, but I hope I see it in my lifetime. And I'm expecting to live 20 more years. So,
well, good luck with that.
I don't.
In that case, I'll tell you what to do.
I don't have.
Loan me $20,000 and I'll give you back $1,000 a year.
Pretty funny.
I'm just trying to hedge my bets.
Pretty funny. But what if you die after 3 years? You're gonna leave owing me $17,000.
Hey, better I owe it to you to cheat you out of it. You know what I mean?
That's a new way of cheating me out of it. Well, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, so we're going to get to our guest today, right?
Yes, our guest today is Queen of Collectibles, Amelia Mollie Ann Giordano Bracigliano. You think she's Italian?
I don't know. She sounds like an Irish girl. From Kerry, perhaps?
Yeah.
This is great because this is something I know nothing about, collectibles. So hopefully Mollie's going to give us all an education, you know?
Well, we'll talk to Mollie about that.
How are you, Mollie? Nice to meet you. My name is Billy O'Connor. How are you?
Hi, Billy. How are you? We are fine.
Good. Glad to hear it.
So, Mal, how'd you get started in the collectible business?
Wow, what a question. So I grew up in a little town in New Jersey called Nutley, in a house with basically 5 men. And I became sports because I had no other choice, basically. My mother loved sports, so we all love sports. And I had a brother who was a big Jet fan, huge Joe Namath fan. And I was a lot younger. There's 13 years between myself and the youngest boy, and I have 3 brothers. So the middle one was pretty much on his way to college. When I was old enough to understand who Joe Namath was. He loved Joe Namath, obsessed with him. So I wanted to emulate him and, let him know that I knew as much, I just wanted to be part of everything. So I became obsessive and learned everything I possibly could about Joe Namath, and then started collecting magazines and Coca-Cola bottle caps and anything on Joe Namath. And then as the years went on, I was a court reporter. I went to high school and then decided I wanted to be a court reporter. Went to court reporting school and finished school young. Got out and became a reporter very young. I was 18 and a half. So my husband had his own business. I had a lot of time on my hands on the weekends, and I started to go to different flea markets and look for sports stuff. And then as my court reporting career progressed and my husband was doing well in his business, I was able to spend more money. So I decided to start collecting autographs. So in 1994, I happened to be at a flea market and there was a flyer. And the flyer had a picture of Joe Namath on it. And I lost my mind. and it said that he was going to do his first public autograph signing. I didn't even know what it was. I had never heard of an autograph show. I didn't know what it was. I called the phone number on the flyer, spoke to a woman named Carmela Forzaglia-Latke.
And another Irish gal.
Yes. And she proceeded to give me to the boss because I called up and said, I don't know what this is. I love Joe Namath. I have like 750 pieces I want signed. How do I start this? So she gave me her boss, and I proceeded to order 100 at a time, 100 tickets. So by the time the show came, I went to the show and they allowed me the opportunity to get my autographs done in the back privately with Joe Namath. So through the years, I was a little bit of a young stalker, so he recognized me. And that's how it started. He let me sit at the table with Joe, and Joe was amazing, and it was one of the greatest memories of my lifetime, actually. And that's how it started. And then
so Mollie, back then, how much did the
autograph tickets cost you? What were the autograph tickets per signature?
Joe Namath was $45 on a football.
So Joe Namath was $45 on a football, and you ordered how many?
Well,
how many tickets did you buy?
I bought about 300 by the time the show happened. And then as the years went on, I was adding to my collection, and then he would come and I'd do another 200 and another 200. And so I have a very large Joe Namath collection.
Mollie, I'm a bit confused. Explain something to me. You bought 300 tickets for the autograph show. Does that mean you get 300 different autographs by Namath, or you bring 299 people with you to the show?
No, I brought 300 items to be signed by
I get you.
So that's roughly $12,000. So that's roughly $12,000.
Correct.
Wow. And that's back then. That's you're talking about 94 now. 1994. 1994. That's remarkable. Just to show.
Yep.
Just to
so the owner of the company loved me.
Okay, so Mollie, let me get this straight. You had $13,500 spare cash in your pocket to give to Joe Namath. If that was me back then, I would have freaking married you.
Court reporters do pretty well.
I guess.
My husband had his own business, a family business. So yeah, we were doing okay. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Mollie. That was back in 1994, correct?
Correct.
Now this is 26 years later. How much would those autographs be worth now? You paid $45 a piece for them.
What do you charge for Joe Namath today?
Joe Namath is $249 on a small flat now.
On a small flat, wow.
Yeah, and he'd probably be, I want to say he's over 300 on a helmet and a football.
And does he have a market outside of New York? Because the prevailing opinion is that outside of New York, Joe's a marginal Hall of Famer.
Okay,
not to us.
Right. That was a slowly I turn moment, Frank, because Joe Namath, obviously I adore the man. And so I've spent the last 35 years of my life defending him. All I ever hear is he's the only quarterback in the Hall of Fame with more interceptions than touchdown passes. He only threw for 27,000 yards. Well, he was throwing at people like Rich Castor. He threw to Don Maynard for a year. So I humbly disagree that he's a marginal Hall of Famer. He changed the course of the NFL.
Without a doubt. I agree with you 300%, Mollie, 300%. I think Namath was larger than life. And I remember when he got drafted coming out of Alabama, people were screaming that he wasn't worth $400,000 for 4 years. He was worth every penny of it.
$410,000 he signed for.
For 4 years.
Yep, for 4 years, exactly.
So $100,000 a year. They got backup guards in the NFL right now making $3 million a year. He changed the whole course of football.
He changed the whole course of football.
Okay, so now I'm going to put you on the spot. He changed the whole course of football. How would you compare him to another one of your favorites, Joe Montana?
Wow. We're going. There, there's really not a comparison, other than the fact that Joe Montana had Jerry Rice and Dwight Clark to throw to. Joe Namath had Don Maynard was 1 year, and then he was throwing to people like Richard Castor and Eddie Bell and Jerome Barkham.
You know what? So let me bring Jerome Barkham now onto the phone, and he put him on a split screen.
Okay, Jerome, are you ready?
No, we're just kidding, Mo.
Oh my God.
Now, Mollie, you've met Montana. You've met Namath.
Yeah, I have, yes.
I got to ask you, as a layman, I mean, well, obviously you have an affection for Namath. Is he one of the nicest guys you met out of all the pro athletes?
Joe Montana's nicer.
Really?
Yes. Joe Namath is absolutely wonderful, but remember, he's 76. He's going to be 76.
Hey, easy.
No,
Billy's going to be 70.
Hopefully I'll be 76.
Joe Montana, they're both wonderful men, but Joe Montana is very easy. Like, he'll sit in a chair and he loves sweets, so he'll sit in a chair and just take watermelon, the little candied watermelons, and he'll just licorice, and we always bring him like confectionery stuff, and he just sits there and talks to you, and he'll just talk about anything that you want to talk about. He'll just sit there. And so does Joe Namath, but Joe Namath seems to always, at all these shows, he gets bombarded, where people don't approach Joe Montana for some reason.
Really?
Well,
Yeah, no, they really don't, and he's so laid back and so easygoing.
But also Joe Montana looks like a regular person, so
Yes.
he can get lost in a crowd very easily. You could be sitting next to Joe Montana at a bar, as I have done in Chicago, and you hardly even know it's Joe Montana.
Because he likes to blend in. He does have that Barry Manilow look about him, though. But
Yeah, he does. He does look a little bit like Manilow. Yeah.
they called him in high school Joe Montana Low. But
Is that right, Joe Montana? Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw Namath actually on a golf course in Florida, and I was playing behind him. He was playing with his father, I think. But I got to tell you, when I watched him get out of the golf cart, he looked like he was older than his father. Does he have a lot of problems walking and stuff?
Well, he's had a couple knee replacements. He's had his hip done, but he's doing very, very well. He was one of the men that came out and spoke about the CTE, and he's been pretty vocal about it. But he's done some exercises, but to make his mind a little more, better and things like that. Can I tell a little Joe Namath story though? Just
sure, please.
So I have my middle brother that I told you about that loved Joe Namath. He doesn't like the autograph memorabilia world. He's an accountant. Need I say more? So he told me, I said, you've never come to one of my shows. You got to come. And he said, the only time I'll ever come is if you get the man. So the first 4 years of my business, I couldn't afford Joe Namath. So the opportunity arose where I did something called Magic Monikers, where we brought in all kinds of legendary names that have nicknames. So we had Magic Johnson, we had Joe Namath, Broadway Joe, we had Joe Montana, Super Joe, we had Willis Reed, the captain. We had a bunch in it. It was really probably my best show.
You have Reggie? You have Mr. October?
We had Mr. October. We had Hulk
Wow.
Hogan. We had Ric Flair. It was crazy. So
Now, excuse me. This is your show. You're putting on this show.
This was an MAB celebrity show. Yes, MAB. Yes. And I called my brother up and I said, guess what? And he said, you got the man. And I said, I got the man. So at the show, my brother said, okay, I'm going to come with the family. So at the show, Joe walks in and he walked right over to me. I was in the middle of doing something, calculating something, and he walked right over to me and he threw his arms around me and he said, you have no idea how proud of you I am. And I said, I had told him the story, how I became a fan. And I said, my brother Al's going to be here today. When my brother Al walked in, Joe was signing like 150 helmets. And my brother walked in and he gave me a hug, and, he's a schmoozer. And I said, come on, I want to introduce you to Joe. I walked over. Joe heard me. He stopped everything he was doing. He turned around and he said to my brother, you should be very proud of your sister today. And he hugged my brother. He took a picture with the family. He was amazing. And it was something that just not everybody would do something like that.
No, I've always heard he's a sweetheart. Actually, believe it or not, one of the firemen I knew, his father was a doorman at the apartment building where Namath lived in New York, right? And he said he always gave him $100. Always gave him $100 for Christmas when everybody else was giving 20. He's a real sport, like a real nice guy, Joe. So that's great to hear.
So Mollie, how do these shows work? You pay to get it? Does somebody pay to get in, and then they pay for an autograph?
We charge admission, and then we have vendors that sell their wares, whether it's autographs or cards. A lot of guys sell wax.
What do you mean by wax? What do you mean by wax?
Cards, trading cards. They call them wax. Okay, because they're in wax packages. So we charge $10 admission typically. The bigger shows, the national, they have a 3-day pass and all that kind of stuff. And then each individual athlete has a fee per item. So whether it's a flat item, which is a photo, or a ticket, or a baseball card, or a football card, football, which would be a separate ticket, depending on the quality of guest, the level of their legend, so to speak. That's how the tickets are priced. So that's basically how it starts. So that's basically how it is. So people walk in and say, I need 5 Joe Namath on a flat. They pay for each individual flat ticket. So that's how.
Now, do you have to guarantee these athletes a certain amount of money before they'll show up?
Oh, yes.
So you're putting yourself out there. You're the producer, in essence.
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct, Billy.
So you could drown if people don't show up. So you got to push these things.
I've actually never had that tragic moment happen to me where I drowned. Have I had shows that have done better than others? Yes. Have I had guests that have done better than others? Yes.
So how many people normally will visit a show on a good show?
A good show, you can have anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 people on a 3-day weekend.
Okay, and how many autographs will you sell on a good weekend?
I mean, it depends on who your guests are. I mean, you can have that many people through the door because they're coming for cards, or you can have that many people through the door because you have Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal, all in the same room.
And you might have all those people on the same weekend.
Have I?
Yes.
Absolutely. I have. I've had 80 guests. I've myself, MAB Celebrity Services has brought 80, most ever I think was 87 guests I brought to the
That's
Chicago
incredible. So 87 sports stars, or we're talking about musicians also, or celebrities, or just sports?
I've had entertainers at my shows. Yes, I've had entertainers at that particular show. I may have had 1 or 2. I think I had a couple members of the movie Major League, things like that. I have bring
so celebrities that are attached to sports as well.
Yeah, that's the key. Billy, most of what I've done is I've tried to be a little different. So I tried to do theme shows, or I'll do themes in a theme. So if I'm doing like the cat, I do something every year in Iowa. So I wanted to we do a Field of Dreams event on the Field of Dreams where the movie was filmed. So I came up with the idea, like, how about bringing the cast of Major League, Charlie Sheen, Tom Berenger, and Corbin Burnson. So that's the kind of thing we did. So we did. And we had them at the Field of Dreams, and they played on the field. We did a legendary softball game.
And the Field of Dreams also included Reggie Jackson, Rod Carew, Johnny Bench, Ryan Sandberg. Did we lose her? Oh, she's back. Okay. A lot of people great
peripheral people from great players.
Yes.
Yeah, not nothing to do with Field of Dreams, but just great players.
Great players.
Let me. How big are these venues, Molly? When you have 87 superstars like that, how big does the venue have to be for the people you expect?
Well, it's a convention center. It would be like the National Sports Convention that is held every year. Typically, when it's in Chicago, it's at the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center. So the convention center is probably 20,000 square feet on the floor. Yeah.
So that's remarkable. I mean, that's something. But you're really putting yourself out on a limb. I mean, because you got to guarantee 87 stars a certain amount of money to show up.
That's absolutely correct.
So your payroll can often be $1 million.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. You forget you're a little girl from Nutley, New Jersey.
You were a little girl.
You were a little girl from Nutley, New Jersey.
Believe me, I've stressed at that size of a show. But again, your layout is $1 million. But if everything goes well, the upside is really good.
Substantial.
Really good.
Let me ask you something. I mean, I was around probably when memorabilia started. You know, I mean, when I was born, the Dead Sea was still sick. So I mean, I'm sure I was around when all this started. But I'm not a memorabilia. What's driving this industry? Is it nostalgia for the past, or is it just sheer monetary value? What's driving it?
I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
Collectibles? No, not at all.
Collectors want to, as far as the shows go, I think collectors like to meet these guys because think about it. I grew up a diehard fan. To meet guys like Tom Seaver and Joe Namath, it was like a dream come true for me the first time. So, and I think that people, it's nostalgia, it's their childhood. Things I remember about my mom being so excited because, you know, I was watching Joe Namath on TV when he had a TV show, and I thought back then by turning all the television sets on, I was getting the ratings better. So, that, you know, my mother laughing at me saying, honey, it's not going to matter. You know, so it's just memories from your family.
So it is nostalgia, you think?
Absolutely.
Driving. This is a $4.5 billion industry from what I'm reading in the United States alone. And they don't even know what it is worldwide, Frank. They say they don't know. They can't estimate.
Yeah.
Well, what's helped the industry worldwide or internationally is Japanese players like Ichiro and Hideki Matsui.
Wow.
And names like that. It's brought the Japanese people and the people around the world to American baseball.
Wow.
Guys like that.
You mentioned Tom Seaver.
Yes, I did.
And I know you're very close to Tom Seaver, and Tom was the reason that you got into the business on your own, I believe, because when you met Joe, you were working for somebody else. You were volunteering. That association went awry, and then Tom said, "Well, why don't you go into your own business? Why don't you tell me a little about your relationship with Tom, who recently passed?"
Okay, I'm gonna try to get through this, guys. Okay.
Yeah, she's gonna cry, but we know it.
So when I was working for this gentleman, I was volunteering for him, and he was doing shows, and because Tom Seaver lived in Greenwich, Connecticut, he would bring Tom a couple times a year because it was so close to where he was doing shows. So because of my love for Tom, he allowed me to sit with him. Well, plus we had heard that Tom was a little difficult. So he thought, you know, an Italian kid from New Jersey might be able to, you know, deal with him and keep him in check. So I worked with him the first 2 shows, and I was scared to death. He was really tough, but he was doing it to perform. And he was writing on me with Sharpie and blue Sharpie and black Sharpie. And then at the end of the show, he said, I want you with me at every one of these shows.
Wow.
Yes, he did. And so
it wasn't really difficult. He was doing it to actually perform. I mean, he was entertaining the crowd and using you as a conduit, so to speak.
Tom Seaver is one of the greatest men I've ever known.
Really?
And, yeah, he's one of the greatest men. Next to my father and my husband, he did so much for me. But anyway, he was, so I called him up and I said, listen, things aren't working out. And I just wanted to let you know that I'm not going to be working for them anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, you're going to start your own business. He said, all that has to happen is I'm your first client. I'll get JB, I'll get JP, I'll get Rod, I'll get Rodney, I'll get Reggie. And everything he said to me happened. I started my business, and within 3 years, I was doing shows, and all of those guys were at the shows. But then Tom wanted to build a vineyard. So he said to me, here's what I want to make. I don't want to travel across country. You know what to do. Which meant he was broadcasting for the Mets. So when he was in town for the Mets, get him whatever I could. So I used to form shows and create shows around Tom Seaver's things that he did, his accomplishments. So I had Cy Young shows. I had 3,000 strikeout shows. I had 300 win shows.
And these are all in New York, Molly? These are all in New York?
Yeah, I had 20-game winner shows, and I would bring all his friends. Then one show or 3 times, I had the 69 Mets. One year I brought the 69 Mets and the 86 Mets all in one. And the 60.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, Johnny Bench came because he was in town at the bat dinner. He walked in and Tom said to him, I don't remember you being in the bullpen. Were you in the bullpen at 69? It was just,
So Seaver was not only your inspiration, he was your catalyst, and he was the guy that told you this can be done, and he really was the guy who did it for you.
He was the brother I never had.
That's fantastic.
He used to call up and go, tell me what happened. How'd the show go? What's the bottom line? Like, he used to ask all those questions, and it wasn't out of selfishness. It was because he genuinely cared. And, we spent weekends at his home in Calistoga, and he'd say, you helped build this vineyard. There's not enough things, Billy, that I could say about him. He was.
Well, you know what? You already answered the question I was going to ask you. Who's the nicest guy you ever met while you were doing this? And obviously, you talk with Seaver with a reverence. So, I mean, obviously, Tom Terrific was absolutely terrific. He was the real deal.
But he knew who he was, and he knew where he fit in the annals of the game. He knew that he's one of the greatest pitchers of all time, but he did not take himself seriously. He really, really didn't. And when he was around his other Hall of Famers, his other comrades, he was one of them. And he treated me like I was one of them. Like if we did a show in New Jersey and we would go out to dinner, and I'd say to him, listen, Jim Palmer's coming, Joe Morgan's coming to dinner. Are you okay with that? And he'd go, yes, but who's paying? I don't want you paying for every single meal. And I'd be like, Tom, don't be ridiculous. And he would try to pay. He would put his credit card up. Then of course I would fight him, but he was just, there's not enough things, Billy. He was.
Wow.
Can I tell you one story?
Yeah, please. That's what you're here for. You met him. I know. I admire him from afar. I never met him before he died.
He told me that he wanted me to handle all his stuff. So it was very, very early on. He was doing the game, and he was broadcasting for the Mets. So he was at spring training. This is the summer of 2000. This is the spring of 2000. My father had just passed away. I'm a huge country music fan, and I'm a huge Garth Brooks fan. Garth Brooks was trying out for the New York Mets as a charity thing for his charity called the Touch 'Em All Foundation. So he went to spring training for the Mets. Tom used to tease me about country music because he loved country music, but he liked Vern Gosdin. I loved, Garth Brooks and the 90s contemporary guys. So he was teasing me. Well, he found out Garth was going to spring training. So spring training had just ended. He was doing it was opening day. So I picked him up at the airport by myself, and I got out of the car and hugged him and grabbed his luggage to put it in my trunk. And he said, I walked to my side and he walked to his. He gave me a white sock. So I caught it, and it was a sock with a baseball on the bottom. So I opened it up, and he had this big grin on his face. And I looked at it, and it said, to Molly, God bless, and I love you, Garth Brooks.
Wow.
And I sat in the car and I like had this big grin on my face, and he didn't want there to be an uncomfortable moment. So he said, "Oh, by the way, he sucks at baseball." So,
Wow.
So, Molly, let me ask you, how many times have you seen Garth Brooks in concert?
oh God, you guys really don't want to know that.
The stalker and you come out again. We do
Yeah.
want to know.
100. Joey and I both have seen him over 100 times.
You mentioned before that you put on a show in Iowa.
Yes.
And a lot of shows, of course, you did in New York because that's where Seaver was, and you were centering the shows around Seaver.
But she also,
Is there a geographic thing to this? I mean, would more people on the West Coast be into memorabilia or more people on the East Coast, or is there no difference?
What happens, Billy, is the cities that have a lot to do. If you remember, obviously New York and New Jersey is seasonal, so there's only certain times a year where the weather's beautiful. In areas like Florida, California, Hawaii, those areas are not good, conducive to memorabilia shows, to autograph events, because the weather, it's just, you could do so much more. You have fishing, you have boating, you have swimming. It's just, you don't want to sit inside at an autograph event. So I find that the West Coast and the South, like Florida, Alabama, those kind of cities don't really, I would never do an autograph event there. And I've done autograph events all over the country. I've done them in Massachusetts, I've done them in Maryland, I've done them in Chicago, in Iowa, I did 2 in California. And I did several in San Francisco. About 8 or 9 years in a row, we did San Francisco.
so Molly, we were talking about Tom Seaver.
Yes.
And it brings to mind, in the last 2 or 3 months, 6 great Hall of Famers have passed away. Al Kaline, Whitey Ford, Bob Gibson, Tom, Lou Brock, and Whitey Ford.
And Morgan.
And Joe Morgan. You've had all of them.
Yes, I have.
For your shows. And you're very close with all of your players, and you feel, as much as anybody I've ever known, you relate to those players. What were your feelings for this last month or so?
Guys, devastation. I mean, I can't believe it. I don't remember a time when this has happened, where there's been that many. And obviously it's because there's a lot of them that are up in age. I mean, Al Kaline was 75 and 85. And I had spoken to him like 4 days before. That really set me back. And that was the beginning of COVID. And then, I knew that Tom was really sick, but it didn't matter, because when it happened, I was a disaster for weeks. But it's beyond words. It really is. And then Whitey, Whitey was older, so you were expecting that. He had dementia. But Joe Morgan, 77 years old. It's crazy. I just want 2020 to end. I just want it to end.
Yeah.
That brings up a point. How has COVID affected your business, and how have you had to be creative in order to keep going?
Well, in March, when this happened, it happened. Okay, so the governor of Chicago closed the state of Illinois on March 15th of 2020. We were in Chicago ready to have 60 players that weekend. We were setting up. So when that happened, we had all the product there. We had all of our customers had shipped memorabilia there. We didn't know what to do. So the governor he actually took care of it and closed everything down, or it would have been a complete nightmare. But so that made me real scared. The following 4 weeks, I didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to make of the whole COVID thing, but I reacted quickly. I thought about ways to change things up, and I started calling my contacts like Frank Pace and all my friends and saying, listen, let's start doing private signings. We can't order product right now because everything is shut down, but the second that we can, I'm going to start, booking talent and doing private signings. So that's what we did, and that's what we've been doing. We've thank God I have a wonderful staff, and they've actually they're in California now. We had eight signings this week. And it's been great because we're going to the talents area where they live, their home, or I'm setting an area like in New York where I do 10 people that live in the area. And that's what I did in California. So we completely changed. And honestly, I think the shows are going to be completely different when it's time to go back, because there's going to be so much social distancing, first of all. Second of all, we do things called photo ops, where people can buy a photo op ticket to get a picture with their favorite player with a beautiful background. Well, nobody's going to do that now because everybody's wearing masks. So talent like Hulk Hogan and The Undertaker and Mike Tyson, where they would sell 300-400 photo op tickets, that part of the business is gone, completely gone. It may come back in 5 or 10 years, but it's not going to come back quickly. Then you're going to have guys over 65 not wanting to travel. So I don't think that the shows are ever going to be what they were. That's just my opinion. But we've been creative, and we think we like this better right now.
Well,
certainly less pressure.
Yeah, less pressure, but also, from a player standpoint, if Mollie's got a show in New Jersey and we're in Los Angeles, we got to fly. Take a day's flight to get there. We got to stay in a hotel. We got to go to the show. We got to spend a day in the show, and maybe we'll fly home that night. So that's 2 cross-country trips in 2 days. And Mollie's got to pay for airfare. She's got to pay for living expenses. She got to pay for per diem. All of that she doesn't have anymore, because if she wants to come out in L.A., we'll do a private signing with Rod at his house for a day or two, and Rod's fine. He's happy in his living room signing away. And Mollie's happy too, because she doesn't have the expenditures and of the flights for the players.
But the payoff is not that big, obviously. So
I think it's bigger.
Well, I don't know. Let's ask Mollie.
Well, Billy, to be honest, I don't like to talk about.
Don't give us a number. Just generalize.
And right now, I'm feeling it's much better for us because there's really no expenses except my staff. We don't have the hotels. We don't have the key problem.
And they fly coach.
Right. That's the problem. First class tickets. I mean, Tom's ticket used to cost $4,700 because he wanted to be on the United Airlines flight. He wanted to be in 3A, and that was it. And I was never going to say to him, Tom, he would use his miles for me, though, not for the Mets, but for me. And then I would just give him a flat first class ticket. But Frank Rod's the same. They want to be in first class. They have certain seats they want to sit in, certain airlines they want to fly. And if you want to make them happy, you have to abide by what they want to do. So it does become not cost prudent, put it that way.
So let me ask you, what are some of the more bizarre requests you've had from talent?
The blue M&Ms. Here, we're going to go with the blue M&Ms.
I've had players request that they have one of my drivers for the night.
Wow.
Which was a very uncomfortable position for me.
We could give him Billy. We can give him Billy. Billy's got no morals at all. He stuck that thing wherever he could in the past.
I've gotten to where I've said no. Because I'm not going to put, I have a federal law background. I'm not going to put somebody in a position where they can conceivably
commit a crime. Yeah.
Because it would fall on my company.
But tell me, Mollie, when you have the private signings, let's say you have 20 people and you're socially distanced.
Oh, no, it's not private signings. It's one person. She brings everything. There's no private signings. You don't get to meet the person. You send your I'm speaking for Mollie.
Yeah, please. I'm just trying to understand.
You send your goods to Mollie, and she gets them signed for you. private signing is just the player in the room with the player's representative, if you want, and one person from Mollie's staff, and that's it.
So Billy, so this week, Billy, we did an event in California. I mean, we did signings in California, and we had Jerry West was one of our guests, and he signed on Tuesday, and Charlie Sheen signed yesterday. Well, on Tuesday we did Jerry West. It was Jerry West, Mike, who works for me, Becky, who works for me, and Mark, who was the authenticator, and it was Jerry West and his representative. But we had, the customers have molded themselves to this change. We had 162 pieces of mail order. That's unheard of. But people know they're not going to get to meet Jerry West for a very long time. So they want to get their stuff signed. So people are getting used to it now.
And let me mention also, you mentioned the authenticator. The authenticator, yes. Authenticators come into play about the last 3 or 4 years because they want to be sure that when they send in that the actual Jerry West is going to sign it. So Major League Baseball has gotten whereby every baseball in a game that's used gets authenticated, and they get a sticker on it, and then they sell it. As an official ball that was used in the third inning at Yankee Stadium. And Mollie, you told me that the authenticators get paid how much?
They get paid $3 a sticker.
$3 a sticker, but I thought they get paid per hour, or is that how they get paid?
Oh yeah, well, because here's the thing. So authenticators get paid by the hour. They get paid by the hour, and all of them are ex-cops, and they get paid like $600 an hour or something like that. $600 or $700 an hour, something like that.
So let me get this clear.
I'm sorry.
not talking about the $700 an hour for the ex-cops.
I thought you said it was $100 an hour.
Well, yeah, I misspoke. It's
even $100 an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that. But what I don't get is before a ball is put into play now in the major leagues, they have to authenticate it?
No. When it's thrown out of play.
When it's thrown out of play?
Yes.
So if a kid catches a ball.
That means it was game used, Billy.
Yeah, so if a kid catches a ball in the fourth inning.
Yes.
Nobody's got to authenticate that?
No, it's authenticated before. The balls that are used in the game, they get authenticated before.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I misspoke.
So they authenticate it before they go into the.
Before it goes into play. And then, every time a ball gets thrown in the dirt, they throw it out, and it immediately goes to an authenticator. Does he stick a sticker on it after the fact? Well, he has to. And he says this ball was used on the second inning of the World Series, third pitch, and it was ball in the dirt, ball 3. And it goes into a computer.
That's remarkable.
And then they sell those, and it's become big business because I think, if a player hits a home run and that home run ball is worth a lot of money.
Yes. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I told you the story, Frank, that I was 3 rows behind a guy, Sal Durante, who caught Roger Maris' 61st homer. I was 3 rows behind him. I was 12 years old. I have my picture in the Daily News and everything. And the ball was worth $5,000. That's what the reward was for the ball, for the home run ball that Sal Durante caught. And I was there. So when Sal Durante caught the ball, the guy stood up and blasted him. I mean, right in the jaw to try and make him give up the ball. Because $5,000 was an enormous amount of money back then. We're talking about 1962, 61.
Yeah.
So it was an enormous amount of money. He was on his way down when security grabbed a hold of him and brought him down into the clubhouse to meet Maris. But what is a ball like that worth today? It's got to be in the Hall of Fame, right?
No, it's not going to be in the Hall of Fame. It's going to be a collector's item now.
I mean, I can tell you, I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but things are very, very expensive as far as that goes. Like, I have an older brother who actually has the Mickey Man. Remember Mickey Mantle had got sick in 61, I guess, where he was in the hospital and he
Sure.
had like
Sure.
stain uniform.
Huh?
My brother bought the uniform, and he supposedly it was him against Charlie Sheen. And he has the uniform, and it went for a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, it's insane.
Not to pigeonhole you. I don't want to pigeonhole you here. But what's the most expensive piece of memorabilia that you've ever saw sold? For what amount? Not necessarily you selling it, but just the most expensive piece of memorabilia you ever saw.
The Honus Wagner baseball card, which has been a legendary piece. It went for like, I don't know, I think 1.2 million.
I think it went for more than that, Ma. I think it went for about 3.4.
It was crazy what it went for, something like that. I would say the Honus Wagner baseball card, but I've seen.
You there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
Not your fault. So you've seen what, Molly?
I've seen Willie Mays glove. It's funny. I was offered a Willie Mays game used glove from the 70s when he played for the Mets. It was worth like $8,000, but something from the 51 season would be upwards of $100,000.
Yeah, Rod's got 7 silver bats. He's been offered in the area of $1 million for those seven silver bats.
That's a perfect example. I mean, Rod's a 7-time batting champion. Forget it.
So, Mal, we're going to sort of start closing this interview, but first, you're getting involved in collectibles. You've been involved in celebrities for a long period of time. You were telling me a story about James Gandolfini and where you grew up. Why don't you tell folks a little bit about that story?
Okay. So The Sopranos obviously is a legendary show, and it took place in northern New Jersey. The house that Tony Soprano and Carmela Soprano lived in is about 4 minutes from where I am right now. It's in North Caldwell, and they filmed in the area all the time. In fact, the last episode, Tony's in the diner, or what looked like a diner. It's actually an ice cream shop called Holstein's. And I spent every Saturday as a kid, every single Saturday, with members of my family or my friends eating ice cream at Holstein's ice cream shop. So when they filmed that, it was like everybody in the area was talking about it. And where Artie Bucco had his restaurant was a restaurant 5 minutes away called Italianissimo, where we had my nephew's graduation party. So The Sopranos were huge around here, and the whole family loved The Sopranos. And we watched every episode. We talked about it. We called each other on the phone. So when I got in the business, James Gandolfini, I had an opportunity to do a private signing with Jimmy Gandolfini. And we actually went to his home in Tribeca. And actually, we did 2 signings with him. It was myself and my husband, Jared, who works for me, and Mr. Gandolfini. And he was amazing. He could not have been nicer. He made me laugh the whole time. And then his phone rang, picked up the phone. He goes, "Hey, Bobby, blah, 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 whatever," talking about the Emmys. And when he hung up the phone, I looked at him and I said, "That was Bobby De Niro, wasn't it?" And he just like put me in like a headlock. He was super duper nice. And so before I left, I asked him to write a personalized photo for me, which I don't really like to do. I make my staff do it. but I asked him, and if you could see in the picture that Frank just showed, I thought there was another one of me actually pulling the photos from him. Yeah, that one, exactly. I was pulling the photos. So in the personalized photo, he wrote, "To Molly, you pull really well." So he was just so nice, just the best. And so through the years, we've worked with the other ones too. We worked with everybody. We worked with Big Pussy. We've worked with
Little
the girls.
Little Steven, I would imagine.
Who?
Little Steven?
No,
Did you work?
No, because remember, he's Bruce Springsteen's. He's in the E Street Band.
He's in the band, yeah.
Yeah,
well, we had his brother on about 3 weeks ago. We had Billy Van Zandt. He's a writer.
Yeah, I worked
television writer.
I worked with Billy many times.
That's Steven's brother.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Molly, I mean, is there anything you want to tell our audience out there about how to get in touch with you if they're interested in private signings or memorabilia, or how to go about doing that, Molly?
We have a website called mab-celebrity.com, and we are going to have a lot of upcoming signings. We're doing some signings with some movie stars. We're trying to do some stuff with the actors in the movie series John Wick's. We did something with Charlie Sheen yesterday. We're going to do another signing with him in a couple months. So please go to our website. Everything that we're going to be doing, a lot of baseball Hall of Famers coming up, a lot of football Hall of Famers, all different kinds of things. And hopefully 2020 will end on a real positive note.
So, Amelia Mollie Ann Bracigliano was inducted into the Italian-American Hall of Fame with Yogi Berra,
Wow.
Joe Bellino, Angelo Bertolli.
Wow.
Every major Italian ever born was voted in. Mike Piazza. How did you feel when you were voted in, Molly? And what was the induction like?
Again, that was one of the greatest nights of my life. It was something I never would have expected. And they vote you in. They put you in a ballot, and people read your story and read about what you've done and who you are. And I was voted in, and I think I'm the only woman in the memorabilia business, so that sort of helped.
Wow.
And Mike Piazza put my medal on me, and it was actually him and another coach, female basketball coach. So it was.
That's remarkable, Molly. Absolutely remarkable. Tell me something. Being a woman, did it cause you any problems in this business? But do you think that it was a hindrance, or was it to your advantage?
It has wonderful moments to it, and it has some detriment to it. The athletes treat you differently. They treat you a lot of them treat you with kid gloves differently than they would treat a man. So that's a benefit because if they're angry, they don't necessarily react to me. They'll tell me nicely, where they would probably curse at a guy. And then there's other times when you're meeting a male for the first time, and he thinks there's a woman in the business, and he'll say things like, we're going to have Deion Sanders on. Oh, he played for the Dallas Cowboys. I know who Deion Sanders is. So I get that a lot. The reminding me who the talent is, or who the athlete is. So
men can be condescending at the same time they admire the journey that you've taken. How many years have you been in this racket?
I started the business in 2004. Was my first event.
16 years.
Wow. So in closing, is Joey nearby?
He is. He's right here.
Why'd you get him on camera so we say hello to him, and then we'll say goodbye to you?
Okay.
Molly, you've been fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
Joey.
Thank you, Billy. It's been wonderful. Thank you. This is Joey.
Hey,
How are you, Joey?
How are you? You're logging a lot of miles because I know you don't like to fly. So
I don't mind driving.
So
we drive all over the place, all over the country.
Well, good to see you both. Thank you both for being on the show, and have a great weekend, I guess.
Yeah, and thanks so much again, Molly. I learned an awful lot about this racket. I didn't know anything about it. So it's a whole new world for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys, and thank you very much for having me. And
You
stay
betcha.
safe as well.
You betcha.
Okay,
Bye-bye,
Molly.
guys.
So, Billy, pretty good guest, huh?
Oh, I thought she was fascinating. And I could have talked to her forever because there were so many other things I wanted to ask her about. Like you had showed me the pictures of her with Joe Gandolfini.
James
Gandolfino. Feeney. Gandolfini.
Holy Christ.
The Sopranos.
What's wrong with you?
Because I have trouble with Italian names. You know what I mean? It's like I was married to an Antonucci. It's tough. But also Yogi Berra and the pictures with Billy Joel. I mean, so she's met everybody and anybody, and this started out only 16 years ago.
Yep.
Pretty incredible. And the amount of money she's throwing the dice with. I mean, takes a lot of guts to throw out $1 million and say, okay, let's see if I can make this work.
It does indeed.
Wow. I mean, it's a gutsy gal.
It does indeed. Yeah. So, On to our football picks.
Oh, jeez, I'm embarrassed. They had another loser last week. Now I'm starting out with 3 winners and then 3 losers. So I'm 500 for the year, which I knew was a matter of time before I dumped.
By the way, what am I?
Oh, you're probably 4-2?
No, 3-1.
No, are you doing 3-1?
Yeah, 3-1. By the way, and
How come I got 6 picks and you only got 4?
Because you picked two different weeks.
I thought I abstained 1 week too.
You got picked.
Well, in either case, you'll bite the dust too. Everybody bites the dust. It's just a matter of time.
We'll see.
You got a
see.
pick for this week, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I got a pick for this week because you haven't given it a name yet.
Derek's
you moron.
Derek's
You got a pick.
I got a pick for
Well,
this
why
week.
don't you give us your
Oh, you're
pick?
going to love this one. It's another stinker.
Well, by the way, there cannot be a bigger stinker than last
my
week.
Ram game?
By picking the Rams.
By picking against the Rams.
Picking against
Atlanta.
the Rams.
Yeah. Well, you know
Against
what?
the Washington. You don't even know who you...
I had the Ram game, too. I picked against them as well.
Yeah, but they were playing Washington, not
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Well, I lost the game. That's all that counts.
So you'll probably pick some game this week.
This week, I like...
Don't tell me Atlanta.
No, Tennessee just beat up Buffalo, right, on the national television. And this week, they're opening up, and they're only 3 points over Houston. I think the line should be 7, so I like Houston, +3. Over an undefeated team, Tennessee.
Really?
Yep. Because I don't like the line stinks to me. I think it should be 7. It's only
Okay.
3, so I like the 3.
Okay.
Now your pick. Tell them the game, Derek.
Game is Green Bay Packers against Tampa Bay, and there's no point spread.
Pick them.
Pick them.
Where's the game being played?
That's a good point.
Hang on 1 second.
Oh, my gosh.
I think it's in Tampa, but I got to make sure.
You got to make sure. He's got to make
It
sure.
doesn't matter to you anyway. You're just
It
picking
does,
them.
it does pick him because I'm going to pick the home team.
Oh, you are? Because it's pick them.
Regardless who it is.
I think it might be Tampa. I think it's Green Bay at Tampa.
Well, that's okay. You guys have a lot of info to talk about.
If it's in Tampa Bay, I'm going to pick Tom Brady. And if it's in Green Bay, I'm going to pick the Packers. And I'm hoping it's in Green Bay because I really want to pick the Packers. But I think it would be ballsy of me to pick against Brady
At home?
At home. So
They lost a tough game last week, too, didn't they, Tampa?
Yes.
They barely lost. They lost a tough game.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. Well, you know me. I just look at the numbers.
So
you know?
I don't even have to wait. There's my pick. If it's in Tampa, I'm picking the Tampa
You're picking
Bay.
the home team in this game.
I'm picking the home team in this game.
Who's ever home, that's who you're going
and
with.
no spread.
No spread. That's it. There's no spread on the game.
Okay. So that's that. Anything else you want to add?
The book is ready. Go buy the book.
Book is ready. Go buy the book.
Don't clamor anymore. Just put your name in it. Send it in. Get the book. You'll like to read.
And I can tell you we're getting really people who read
great
the book
reviews.
really like it. And people who are liking it would not say they like it if they didn't like it. So that's very gratifying to us.
Yes, and so read the book if you like it, and you will like it. Write a review on Amazon, or it'd be nice if you could take the time to do that. If you don't like the book, don't say nothing because
fuck
nobody
yourself.
likes a blabbermouth.
So the book's available on Acclaim Press also. It's called If These Lips Could Talk. And with that, we should sign off.
Sign off for another week.
They're playing before we sign off. They're playing in Florida.
Oh, they're playing at Tampa Bay.
Okay, so
you like Brady.
I guess. Well, I don't like Brady, but I'm going to pick Brady.
You're picking the
I
Tampa
can't.
Bay.
I can't always pick who I like.
Right.
You pick me.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
You pick me.
Fourth choice. Fourth choice.
It's like when you said before with Mollie on with Yogi Berra. I says, all the quotes about Yogi Berra had is a million quotes, but my favorite one is Casey Stengel said to him one time. He said, "You don't know anything, do you?" And Yogi says, "Know anything? I don't even suspect anything."
And with that howl, that Billy howl, we'll see you next week.
Next week. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, by the way,
Oh, yeah, go.
our guest next week will be Mary McNamara, Pulitzer Prize winner.
Wow.
Pulitzer Prize winning writer for the Los Angeles Times. We're very honored to have Mary.
Wow.
She'll be our guest next week. You can't talk writing with her.
Why not? I got to pick her brain. Come on.
You can pick her brain, but you can't correct her.
Oh, I ain't going to correct it.
Actually, that would.
I ain't going to correct it, but I am going to pick her brain.
You should pick her brain. We both should pick her brain because we all can learn something next week.
That's going to be great. That's going to be a great guest, Frank. I'm
Great.
glad you pulled that up.
Great. With that,
we're going to say
See you
goodbye.
next week.
And thank you very much again for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you next week.